Thank you, Harold. I'm not surprised to see that this is such a large team, because to cover 1.5 billion people, I think you need a big team. But I'm really very impressed that you took us very quickly, staying right on time, through a range of major programs and some of the issues that emerge from those programs. So now let's turn to our panelists. I think we'll go first to Jon Brause, who will give us a perspective from the World Food Program. Jon, I'll ask you to use the podium.
Thank you very much. Schengen, thanks for having WFP here today. And Harold, thanks for a great introduction. You and I were talking, or you were in the back earlier, about the title of the book, and it was a little bit awkward, I think you felt, or there were other ideas what might have worked. And I think you could have used "Perfection is the enemy of the good," because we've seen over the last few years there's been a big argument about whether all food assistance programs should shift to unconditional cash, or whether there's all the bad things about in-kind food aid and the evil people who are pushing us to move commodities. So there's a great debate going on about those, and I think this book that you put together with your colleagues actually shows us that there is no simple answer. And one of the most interesting lines in the book that I found was one where you said the reform of food aid systems is indeed a systemic matter. So we're not talking about something that's perfect. We're talking about something that has to function in a system. And those systems are political systems, they're economic systems, and they're social systems. And there are different drivers and different demands being placed on the programs by each of those. And so your book focuses primarily on high-income and middle-income countries, although you indicate that the findings relate a lot also to lower-income countries. But in WFP, we're working in the least developed countries. And so in a lot of cases where your case studies are dealing with economies that are relatively developed, if not extremely developed, we're dealing with economies that are incredibly underdeveloped. And I could just give you one example. I mean, right now we're working in Yemen, right? Now we could go to all cash in Yemen. What would happen if we went all cash in Yemen? Especially when there's a blockade in Yemen. But some people out there in the system are saying you need to go to all cash. You need to go to all cash. And WFP is having to fight these battles, having to debate these groups about whether we should continue to move in-kind commodities or buy locally and regionally, move commodities into systems. And what we say is that we have to look at the exact situation in each system where we're working. And what we've discovered is that, in fact, there isn't a single answer, because systems are dynamic. Systems can change. Sometimes you have harvests come in, prices are low. We should take advantage of those economies, buy commodities locally, distribute to those who are vulnerable. But on the other hand, if you tried to buy locally when the harvest is long past, prices are high, you would just contribute to inflation, and you would in fact push more people into poverty. So WFP actually puts a lot of emphasis on our assessment systems, and we try to bring the right resource in at the right time. Now here's the challenge for us. Everybody's discussing how we should do work on the ground, but nobody's discussing exactly how the donors, in our case, because it's not funded by a host government, it's funded by the donor community, our work. We need the donors to understand that we need the flexibility, whether it's in the provision of commodities or the provision of cash, to know when, or to have the flexibility to buy commodities or to bring commodities in at the right time. And all of the donors, every single one of them, fail in this regard because they have their budgetary cycle, and that budgetary cycle does not correspond to the needs cycle in the countries where we work. So we are struggling getting donations from 10 or 15 or 20 different donor countries, all coming in a different format, at a different time, in a different way. And our teams have to try to rationalize those to have an optimal impact, or at least a good impact, in the countries where we work. And it just is not something that people are really looking at and trying to help. So the debate that's been going on about cash versus in-kind, we don't find particularly helpful, because we have an incredible demand that is not being met, and what we need is to get people to work together and understand that the programs that we're implementing, social protection programs or emergency feeding programs or what have you, while they are not perfection, we know they're not perfection, they are in fact very effective in meeting the needs of the people that we serve and helping them get back on their feet in a variety of different ways. So I thought this book was excellent because it didn't prescribe any particular action. It pointed out that you can get efficiencies, if not perfection, through different modalities at different times if you pay attention to that system that you're working in. And that's, again, our goal, is to make sure we do the best job we possibly can, given the resources that we receive and the manner in which we receive those resources. Because, again, everything has something to do with the way we deliver resources. And I would just ask that everybody consider, again, the unmet need that's out there. So instead of arguing for perfection, let's look at ways where we can increase assistance that move people up the ladder to the point where they don't need us anymore. So thanks a lot.